Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdes, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdes.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media. Welcome to the Wednesday night edition of the program. We are live and national. If you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation, give me a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDES. And the attack on America continues. Earlier today, as you've likely heard, there was an anti-ICE sniper attack at a Dallas ICE facility, hitting the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol facility. All the victims that were hit were detainees being detained there. No ICE agents were injured, and the shooter is dead. And like similar situations like this, similar attacks, the shooter inscribed things on the shell casings. I know, you can't make this stuff up. My gut reaction to a lot of these things is, are we living a Hollywood movie? Because this stuff is just so out of control. But this is the story that we're hearing from the FBI, from the Dallas police, from the news, and people on the ground, witnesses, etc. Listen to this.
Multiple people are dead after a shooting at a Dallas ICE field office this morning. I spoke with Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons just moments ago. Here's what he had to say about the situation.
It appears to be a sniper from an elevated position. Initially, 3 individuals were shot. We do have multiple fatalities. All ICE agents and officers at the location are accounted for right now. It's still an active scene. From what we know, the shooter died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Dallas Police Department and the Texas Department of Public Safety have been great help to secure the scene. So it's still active right now in the sense that we're still trying to learn more why this happened, anyone else is involved, and just really securing the area and making sure our people are safe.
So there you go. You have the latest on that. And again, I think the bigger issue here is what we see going on. Just a little while ago, right before airtime, I was looking at a video. And it was this guy, I think his name is Nick Shirley. And he does videos. He's a man on the street type of reporter, covers these protests and events and whatnot, independent. And he's out there and he's, videoing the police in several unmarked cars. You see ICE, you see DHS, you see, I think Metro, DC Metro. It's in Washington, D.C. And he's asking them, what's going on. They're kind of ignoring him. A passerby that's, a witness who's watching the whole thing happen says they're arresting this guy. They said he's distributing drugs. And he says, oh, so they're arresting a drug dealer. And the guy says, well, if that's how you want to characterize him, he looks like a homeless guy to me. And, there's people around. They're all, swarming around the scene of this arrest. And ultimately, a woman with a bullhorn comes and she starts screaming, you've got to leave the homeless alone. You've got to leave the homeless alone. Now the crowd is getting incited. They're all into it. And they're like, yeah, leave the homeless alone. This poor homeless guy. Meanwhile, this guy, this citizen journalist, he's zeroed in on the search as they're putting the guy in the car. And they're pulling packets of drugs out of his pocket, packets of cash out of his pocket, all sorts of things. And he's narrating it. He says, all right, that looks like drugs right there. That looks like a stack of cash. Homeless people don't usually walk around with a lot of cash and drugs in their pocket. So, again, bottom line is, while it doesn't fit in the mind of your average, everyday Washington, D.C. leftist, guess what? Some people who may look like they're homeless may not actually be homeless. They might just be people on the street so that they don't get noticed by the cops, so they blend in, and they're doing their job, which is to sell drugs. And, I mean, these tricks are as old as the day is long. But yet this woman was screaming. And then it wasn't just like, heck no, we won't go type of chanting. She's screaming on this bullhorn, coward, coward. And then she goes into this high-pitched, as if she's being eviscerated type of screaming, like, ah, ah. I mean, just obscene, obnoxious, scary type of screaming. And then back to her, cowards, cowards, stop locking up the homeless. And just going back into this, I mean, just wild stuff. I shared it on my Instagram story if you want to take a look at it. It might be on the Facebook story too. But the point here is this is bizarre behavior. And they do this because this is a technique that they've learned, right? It stems from the Mau Mau tactics. These are old CIA tactics, believe it or not, that were used when the CIA was destabilizing the Mau Mau uprising, just people in other countries. And interestingly, now we're using those things right here at home. Do anything to bird dog a little bit, to get this attention, to get people to freak out, to get the cameras to look at you. And it's very insightful, or I should say it's very inciting, right? It incites people. It brings them to this point of they don't know what to do. Do they go with the groupthink? Do they go against the groupthink? Sadly, there's a number of people in life that you're going to find in your journeys, if you haven't already. I know I found them in mine, that will go along with whatever flow. They're just like, yeah, go along to get along. And the issue is we have to be people that stand on something firm. Otherwise, you'll get taken into this wave of darkness. Next thing you know, you're shooting at ICE agents, missing the ICE agents, killing the detainees, the people you're allegedly supporting, and then you end up dead yourself. That's this week's story. What was it, a little more than a week ago? It was the horrific assassination of Charlie Kirk. Before that, it was the other two shootings that occurred in Texas. I mean, at some point, and maybe for some people there is no point, right? But for me, I've reached my point, and I realize we need to be sending the National Guard to Texas, right? We need El Trompito to get with Governor Abbott and say, what's going on here? If Texas is going by the wayside this way, good Lord, right? Really, we need to have the red states kind of leading the example with our red state governors. There's enough to do with these blue state governors. Anyway, that's just my thought. I'm not being critical. I'm being worried, right? I'm being concerned. And my hope is that we'll get this thing nipped in the bud because it's crazy. Another video. And again, not trying to get off the ICE shooting, but just the common theme of violence. Listen to this. Again, next video I get to, our good friend Cara Castronova. Now, Cara Castronova, she's been on this program. She's a correspondent with Lindell TV streaming network, and she's typically out of Washington, D.C., but she was doing her report from the street in Manhattan. And she typically does really good man-on-the-street interviews, interviewing people that are gathered at different types of political, gatherings and whatnot, meetings, protests, etc. And she's interviewing a young man that appears from the video to be of Asian descent. And he pushes her like 2 or 3 times from what I remembered, like pushing the microphone. She's interviewing him. He's willingly answering. So she's putting the microphone, from her direction of her mouth to the direction of his mouth to get his response to the question she just asked him. And he's answering the question. He's not saying no comment or leave me alone. He's answering the question. So she puts the microphone, and it's not that close to him. It's like what any other reporter would do. And he pushes it, and he pushes it. He pushes it like two times there, and then a third time he pushes her hand. And then, like the fourth time, he snatches it. He pushes her hand out of the way. She tries to grab it back. He pushes her, and he grabs the mic, and he just starts talking about how she's a fascist and how MAGA this, MAGA that. And she's freaking out. She's like, I can't believe you just stole my microphone. What are you doing? Give it back. She calls for the police. It looked to me like there was a cop in the background. There's a guy right next to her, this real big guy with a beard, kind of looks like Santa. But as you, on second look, Santa is wearing a keffiyeh. right? So a white guy, white beard, with one of those scarves that you find in the Middle East that have been hijacked by the Hamas movement. So typically, if you're wearing a keffiyeh, it doesn't mean that you support or appreciate Middle Eastern culture. And now it means you support Hamas, right? At least that's my take on this. And the guy says, yeah, well, are you one of those fascists? Just stupid commentary like that. And I'm thinking, so now you have a woman, right? And Kara is a relatively petite woman, right? Maybe 5'2", 5'3", 5'4", maybe on her best day. And maybe she's 5'5", but she's small, right? Not heavyweight at all. And now she is a former pro boxer, Golden Gloves. And lucky for him, she didn't go that route. My comment on her thing was, I said, you know what? Jab cross would have taught him a lesson in self-defense. And I think she would have been well within her rights, as this guy was literally robbing her microphone and pushing her. I think a natural reaction would have been to just catch him in the jaw. But I'm not advocating for this violence. I'm saying if a girl's being pushed, she should do what she can. I think Kara showed extreme restraint, probably because she's a Golden Gloves boxer, and he'd probably try to sue her and say that, she's very dangerous and she's a fascist, right? But all of that happened today. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't remember the last time that young men, old men, ICE shooters, assassins, it seems like every day there's a new escalation of violence. Every day there's something going on that to me is it's a little out there. And it comes as no surprise that even the left is admitting that there is now increased violence on the left. The Atlantic today putting out an article indicating that left-wing violence is at an all-time high, or at least at a 25-year high. So when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about this left-wing violence, plus your thoughts, your calls, your reactions, your opinions, and all of that. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
This is the third shooting in Texas directed at ICE or CBP. This must stop. To every politician who is using rhetoric, demonizing ICE and demonizing CBP, stop. To every politician demanding that ICE agents be doxxed and calling for people to go after their families, stop. This has very real consequences. Look, in America, we disagree. That's fine. That's the democratic process. But your political opponents are not Nazis. We need to learn to work together without demonizing each other, without attacking each other. And I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the brave men and women of law enforcement. I want to say thank you to the brave men and women of ICE and CBP and everyone who puts their lives on the line to keep us safe.
That's Senator Ted Cruz reacting to the shooting of ICE agents in Dallas, Texas earlier today. And he's 100% right. This stuff has to end. The villainization that we see coming from people on the left towards ICE. And again, I remember this starting back in 2018. The loudest critic of ICE back then, AOC, all out crazy, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And she was constantly talking about abolishing ICE, abolishing ICE, abolishing ICE. Fast forward a couple of years, and here we are. Here we are where ICE agents are now taking fire. Thankfully, again, no one injured today, but people that were in custody for detention for possible removal, dead. The shooter, dead. not a good situation. Not a good situation at all. Now, in other news, yesterday we had a conversation with Ambassador Carla Sands about President Trump's very, very, very direct speech at the United Nations. And she mentioned toward the end of our conversation about some gathering that was going on by a group of Iranians. And I thought this was interesting. And I said, you know what? I want to get more on that. I want to learn a little bit more about what's going on there. So we've reached out to Alireza Jafarzadeh, and he's joining us now. Sir, welcome.
Thank you so much, Jake. Always a pleasure to be on the show.
My pleasure. Talk to me about the purpose of yesterday's discussion with your group and your overall goal.
Absolutely. Both yesterday and today, thousands of Iranian Americans gathered in front of the United Nations, filling the whole place, being very loud and clear that the Iranian regime does not represent the people of Iran. The regime's president, who just spoke today, does not represent the nation. He represents the regime, and that is the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism and the executioner of the people of Iran. Instead, the thousands of rally participants said that there is a solution to the Iranian problem. There is an alternative to the clerics ruling Iran, and that's actually the alternative led by a woman, Mrs. Maryam Rajavi. She has introduced a 10-point platform for the future of Iran that says it has to be based on separation of religion and state, equality between men and women, freedom of religion, freedom of political parties, freedom of expression, freedom of the media, free market economy, supporting peace in the Middle East, and a non-nuclear republic Iran. And the gathering was so focused on the call that she has made to end the rule of the clerics by the people of Iran. She says that there is no need for foreign boots on the ground, or appropriation of money or arms, none of that. All the outside world need to do is stop giving money and resources and legitimacy to the regime. Instead, recognize the right of the people to overthrow the regime. The rest is our responsibility. And that's the rally that Ambassador Carla Sands was one of the speakers at that rally.
Well, we're going to learn more about that in a moment. I also want to get your reaction to the Ayatollah's response, the Ayatollah taking to Twitter and responding to President Trump's very sharp comments, as well as a number of UN member nations seemingly giving support to the Islamic Republic of Iran by voting for a Palestinian state. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdes.
Big fan. Your impact is really big. Honored to be here.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, amigos, welcome back. It's Rich Valdes, and we continue our discussion about Iran. Of course, Iran making a sharp response to President Trump after his United Nations address just yesterday. And I want to come back to our guest, Alireza Jafarzadeh. He's with the National Council for Resistance to Iran. And Alireza, the Iranian response, I mean, obviously it's no surprise, but your reaction to it?
Well, absolutely. I think the supreme leader spoke one day before his own president was supposed to address the United Nations, making it very clear that, first of all the shots are called by the supreme leader. Everybody else is irrelevant within this regime. Second, Khamenei's position was very clearly in support of continuing their nuclear weapons program. He was very adamant, saying that we're not going to back down from the 60% enrichment of uranium, which is very close to weapons grade. We're not going to back down in shutting down any part of our program. We're not going to back down from any of our policies in the region, and we're not going to negotiate with the United States. So he has, in effect, rejected everything else that others were hoping that the regime would pursue that. Now, what does that mean? Why is Khamenei saying that? I think, first of all, it shows that the supreme leader is heavily reliant on the nuclear bomb as a guarantee for his survival. The Khamenei knows that if he abandons the nuclear weapons program, then he's doomed even sooner. Second, it also shows that how desperate and vulnerable the regime is, that they cannot even back down from the nuclear weapons program. He knows that if he does back down, then he's facing a huge question and backlash from within the regime. How in the world you pursued and put all the resources of the country, about $2 trillion cost of the nuclear program, and then it's going nowhere, and you're backing down. So he has this problem of the Revolutionary Guards. How can he convince them? And the whole thing is about survival of the regime. So either way, this regime is doomed to fall. I think the biggest message out of here is that this regime is vulnerable, and this is the time for the Iranian public to step up efforts to bring down the regime, but most importantly for the outside world to realize, understand that this regime is not 10 feet tall, and if they side with the people of Iran, and if they refrain from giving concessions and money and resources to the regime, you will see the change taking place in Iran. So that's really what it means.
Now, Alireza Jafarzadeh, the recent weeks, the events of recent weeks, you've got a number of nations, the United Kingdom as well as others, saying they support a two-state solution, they support a Palestinian state. This is becoming, seems to be in vogue, honestly, with a lot of UN member nations. What's your reaction to that and your thought on where that ends up?
I think, honestly speaking, I mean, I've been following this issue for decades, and, peace was very much at reach back in 1993 when the three nations, Israel, United States, and the Palestinians came into an agreement to have peace. But what happened after that? The Iran regime has been the single, most destructive party among all of that, trying to destroy peace, because if there is peace in that part of the world, then the regime's, slogan, death to America, death to Israel, and death to the MEK, which is the main opposition inside Iran, that would be, nullified. The regime has relied heavily over the years on the hostilities in the region. They thrive on crisis. If the regime didn't build Hamas, Hezbollah particularly, and funding them since day one, training them and all of that in Lebanon, they would have gone down a lot earlier. If they didn't support Assad in Syria, they would be in trouble. But the most important thing is that right now circumstances have changed. This regime is much weaker now than they were 2 years ago. They've lost a lot of the clout in the region. But at the same time, they still remain the epicenter of terror and war and instability. The head of the snake of war and terror actually lies in Tehran. So if anyone is interested in peace, I would look nowhere except, other than just in Iran. So long as the mullahs are in power, you're not going to see peace or settlement or anything like that. So that's where I would really keep the focus on Iran and siding with the people of Iran. Mrs. Rajavi, the leader of the opposition movement in Iran, she's been, very, very active. She's gaining a lot of support in the U.S. Congress in a bipartisan way in Europe and other places. But the regime doesn't want the outside world to look at her, her option, her alternative, her movement. And that's why I think the message, like the rally yesterday and today by thousands here, but also before that, members of Congress and others are saying, let's keep the focus on this movement because, it's not about boots on the ground or getting U.S. involved. This is about change that would impact everybody. It would impact the region. It would impact the whole world. Just imagine, Rich, if we have a free, democratic, non-nuclear, non-belligerent Iran, what a difference it will make. And Iran will become a center of peace and tranquility and unity in the region, in sharp contrast to what it is now, the epicenter of war and terror.
Alireza Jafarzadeh, really well put. Final question to you, brief response. The question is, yesterday I heard some on the American left saying that Trump is fostering through his actions a new axis of evil with Kim Jong-un, with Xi Jinping, and with Vladimir Putin. And my reaction to that was, there's nothing new about this access, and they're working with Iran. But that was how it was presented. Do you expect that they will continue to cooperate?
Well, certainly, I mean, the regime has always looked for allies. They had a number of regional allies. They lost them, or a lot of them have gotten so weak. So the regime would definitely rely more on players like Russia and China. There's nothing secret about that. But at the end of the day, I don't think any of those countries can really help a regime that is falling, a regime that is rejected by its own population, a regime that cannot even hold their own proxies alive and operational. So no matter how much those countries would be interested in keeping the regime in power, when the substance is not there, when the public is rejecting that regime, they're going to have a very, very tough time continuing what they were doing. So I would think that, the escalation of the uprisings in Iran and the momentum that has now been built in empowering the organized opposition would really impact everything else in the region.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Folks, Alireza Jafarzadeh, the National Council for Resistance to Iran. Let everybody know how they can follow your work and keep up to speed with the things that you guys are doing.
Sure, thank you. Yes, we're on all social media platforms, but also on our website. It's at NCRIUS, at NCRIUS. We're on Twitter. We're on YouTube, Instagram. Follow our work there. There are so many ways that everyone can contribute by both spreading the word, but also contacting their members of Congress, reminding them of the solution, reminding them about Mrs. Rajavi, her 10-point platform. This is not really a partisan issue. Anyone with any kind of political tendencies, if they care about their safety and security here or anywhere else around the world, they should side with this movement. So I really appreciate everyone getting involved.
Thank you, Alireza Jafarzadeh, whistleblower for the Iran nuclear program some 2 decades ago. I appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you, Rich. Always a pleasure to be on your show.
Likewise. Good to speak with you. And amigos, we're going to take a pause right here. We're going to come right back and talk with you all on your thoughts, your opinions on everything that's going on, from the Texas shooting at the ICE facility to continued reaction on Iran's response to President Trump's speech yesterday and everything else that's going on. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes. Call now, 833-4-VALDES. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDES. That's Valdes with an S. now. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, to the phones we go. I want to go to James in Fairfax County, Virginia, calling us from WMAL. James, go right ahead, sir.
Hi, sir. Yeah, I wanted to bring your attention to another round of assassinations in another place not so very long ago. In the 1930s in Spain, there was a set of assassinations back and forth, and the left was pushing it. They had just come back into power after having rotated out in the elections, and there was the equivalent of that recent assassination attempt against our own President Trump and candidate Trump. But in this case, they took out the leading centrist politician, a gentleman by the name of Jose Calvo Sotelo. And whereas before that, the majority of people in the center didn't want to go to war and they weren't ready to use physical force against the other side, after that, everybody decided that if they were going to get murdered, if they didn't start pushing back. And whereas there had been coup plotters, for many moons in Spain versus the leftists, after the assassination of the leading centrist politician, the coup went into overdrive. 4 days later, there was a coup, and it only partially succeeded. And then they had 3 years of civil war, followed by 40 years of a hardline dictatorship. And the left has this slogan, things have to get worse before they get better, and they're always trying to make things worse with assassinations. Whether it's Russia in the 1880s or Spain in the 1930s or the United States, right now. Assassinations are often an effective tactic to destabilize a country. It's worked in South America, it's worked in Europe, and I'm very much afraid it could work here. When they tried to knock off Trump, multiple times, it certainly brought my blood to a boil. I'm a very diplomatic person.
Sure.
But it is possible by killing all the people who are trying to talk to leave nothing left but drawn swords. And this is one of the tactics the left has used over and over for the last 150 years. The right-wingers in some countries have occasionally done similar things. In Japan, prior to World War II in the 1930s, it was more right-wing assassinations, less left-wing assassinations. Likewise in Germany in the 1920s and early 30s.
Well, James, tell me about this, because my question to you is, is your concern in looking at the revolution in Spain in 1936, is your concern that that's going to spark a revolution in the United States?
Absolutely. I mean, I think we came.
Well, let me ask you. Let's take it step by step.
God, I think we avoided that. We avoided that at the present moment.
Okay. Well, I think avoiding it is really not something that we do by just happenstance, right? Avoiding it means I don't pick up arms and go kill lefties. Are you ready to do that?
If Trump had been murdered in cold blood on stage.
All right. So Charlie Kirk was just murdered in cold blood, and it happened in front of everybody. Do you see anybody forming militias, taking to the streets to go after the left? Absolutely not. I prefer everything to be peaceful. Well, that's my point. So you're positing. Hang on a second. You're positing that you feel that this is going to get people to a fever pitch where they're going to become violent. That is possible. However, I really think we're dealing with two different elements here, right? I don't see the MAGA movement the people that have all the means in the world, right? Most of the MAGA people I know, they're gym people, right? They're not fat and sloppy. They work out. Many of them are ex-military, law enforcement, former law enforcement. They're not girly men. They're manly men. Most of them have been shooting guns for a long time, and they're prepared. And we didn't see that, right? And I think the reason we don't see it is because there's something that's missing. And what's missing is malice. And when you have good people are pretty predictable, right? Good men can do bad things. That's for sure, especially when they're pushed into a certain situation. The real question is, what is the push? And for most, it's a threat. It's the threat that their family is going to be affected, that their own life is going to be affected. And many of us are concerned. That goes without saying. But at the same time, our concern is not going to outweigh our character. And ultimately, so many of the people I know in the MAGA movement, conservatives, Christians that are in this big tent, they're not ever looking to cause harm to another human being. They're just not. It's not what they're here to do. The large majority. So I'm talking about if you got 1,000 people, 900 plus. And as long as that remains the trend, it's going to be very difficult to get to that point, right? So it's going to require the left to attack you individually and for the government to be absent. Now, if the government is absent, then of course I think you're going to have bedlam. But our government isn't absent. I mean, I think what you see when Trump strategically puts people out in the streets, National Guard or Homeland Security investigations, et cetera, they're extraordinarily effective, and everybody in those areas feels safer. So I get it. I do get it. I guess the point I'm making is there's really only one group here that you push them around a little bit and they freak out and start killing people, and that's the left. I'll be right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, amigos, to the phones we go. Let's check in with Paul. Paul's calling us from Boise, Idaho. Shout out to our friends at KBFI. Paul, go right ahead.
Thanks for taking my call, Rich.
Yes, sir.
I don't know, the last 3 days or so, I've seen the airwaves on TV. They're just totally full of libs. And it's Kamala trying to push a book that you couldn't give me to read. And
the 107 days.
Yeah, there's no way I could read that. I would laugh all the way through it probably. But I'm not going to question Trump and what he does because he's commander in chief, and I follow him wherever he goes. But I think the problem that we're having with the shutdown is kind of twofold, is the way I see it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just know that was a problem for us, and it's going to be a problem in another 60 days, too. So,
Paul, I wish I had more time to talk to you about that. That's an interesting point. Paul, let's pick up where we left off the next time we speak, because I want to talk about your 60-day theory. Amigos, I got to take a break right here, but we continue on many stations, and if not, hasta la próxima. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdes, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdes.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media. Welcome to another hour of the program. We are live and national, If you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation, give me a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdes. And so many things we're going to get into tonight. Of course, we have a few things on the table. One of those things is the reaction to President Trump's UN speech. And even Antonio Gutierrez, he is the Secretary General of the United Nations, typically very critical of this administration. Even he was praising some of President Trump's peacemaking efforts because what can you do, right? I mean, you have to save face, I'm going to guess. So I was happy to see that, at least they gave him a little bit of his due. We also have this ongoing coverage of what happened earlier today in Texas, ICE facility being shot up, a sniper attack that killed 3 people that were in detention being held by ICE, and of course the shooter himself taken out. No law enforcement was harmed in this attack, thank God, but it's unfortunate that anybody died. Honestly, yeah, I'm not here to root for the bad guys to die. I know some of my critics might say I'm soft, but I'm just not. I don't think we should be rooting for anybody to die. I think it's important that we, do the right thing, and that's it. Yeah, if and when you have a sniper that's trying to kill people, then yes, you have to kill the sniper. That's the appropriate action, and I'm glad that the threat is eliminated. But the 3 people being held in detention, I think it would have been better for them to go back home to wherever country they came from than to have met their maker right here in the United States while being held in detention. So a sucky situation for them, and overall a terrible situation for America. But this is the result of the radical left becoming more radical, right? They are reaching this point where they don't like what you have to say. They can't defend their positions, so they have nothing else to do but shut you up. And the easiest way to shut people up permanently is to put them that way. There is a old saying from Chairman Mao Zedong, right? Chinese Communist Party, CCP. And Chairman Mao says, political power comes from the barrel of a gun. Right? He believed in real authoritarianism. That's really what's going on here. It's literally the fascistic behavior of the radical left. They can't help but have a debate. They can't out-meme the right? I mean, I'd be angry too. Let's be frank here. I would be very angry if one of the top representatives of my movement were people that dye their hair all sorts of funny colors. And listen, I'm all about the hair dye. Go for it. Do what you want to do. I'm glad you have hair. But this is their army, right? A bunch of people that are, it's like the island of misfit kids, right? It's all these people that feel like they don't fit in society. And again, I would posit that it's precisely because they feel so ostracized by the status quo, by the norm, by the rest of the quote-unquote normal community, that they fall victim to all of this ideology. They become so angry because it's, they're forcing the world to put the square peg in the round hole. And I would further posit that this is intentional on behalf of the left. This is why they took over higher education. This is why they got their most radical to get to the highest levels of the American Psychological Association, the American Psychiatric Association, and et cetera, so on and so forth, right? Because they wanted to be able to change the rules from within, change the game. And little by little, they're doing it. We saw during the Biden administration, they reauthored the civil rights laws to include all these extra things, which is now part of the fodder in the media of what Charlie Kirk was pushing back against with the Civil Rights Act. So much of this is, again, doing contortions, mental contortions and physical ones, right, to try and make these things make sense, to double down in congressional testimony that men can get pregnant. right? This type of crazy, it's the best word, I think, to define it. This type of crazy is what brings about these people saying, but every time they argue with us, they win. They make all these good points like men shouldn't be women or can't be. And ultimately, and I make light of that, but this is not something I'm really laughing at, right? It's more the incredulity of the situation that has me, like, wow. It's just bizarre. But here we are. So when you're arguing with somebody that you really can't argue with, what are they going to do? They're going to cheat. They're going to do whatever they can do to win. Is a bunch of very spoiled brat people. And the series of videos I've seen in the last couple of days, and I realize the algorithms feed me that stuff, and that's not a representation of real life. I walk around the streets all the time, and I don't see that stuff wherever I go, and I'm in the city. But it's happening, and I have seen it. And I've had my own interactions. You guys know I had a very interesting interaction with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, all out crazy, right? Asking her to be a guest on my radio show in New York City, and she decided to literally run across the street to Fifth Avenue, right? Literally. And I couldn't make it up because the New York Post got it on video. And I say that to say this isn't what politics used to be, but it's where politics is now. But thankfully, we've got an administration that's doing the right thing, right? Moving forward with common sense policies like, oh, wow, you got crime in D.C.? Let's have Congress put a D.C. Crime Act together so that we can make D.C. safe again. That makes a ton of sense, right? And these are the types of common sense solutions that we need to have. If you've got illegal alien truck drivers killing people in Florida, then we've got to make sure that we're cracking down on that. Because the fascism that's coming from the left and their mental maneuvers to try and make good of all this is fake, it's phony, and it's fraud. Amigos, keep it locked right here. We're coming right back with Congressman Byron Donalds.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, amigos, welcome back, familia. We continue our conversation. And just like I was saying, Congresswoman AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, all out crazy. A couple of years back in the Puerto Rican parade, ran away from me, literally ran to the other side of the street because Fifth Avenue was closed because I wanted to talk about capitalism versus socialism. She was afraid. And so many of these squad members, they're afraid. They like to throw rocks, but they don't like to actually get into the debate. And the same is true for Rashida Tlaib. Rashida Tlaib was throwing around a fascist, quote-unquote, attack at Representative Byron Donalds, the congressman from Florida. I have a quick clip of it. Listen to this.
Fascist takeover, that's not a bad word. It's a fact.
Chairman, I think it's insane that the young lady doesn't have an argument, but she's going to refer to me and some of my colleagues.
Mr. Donald,
we were from the Third Reich. This is insane. It's insane.
It's insane.
It's insane. Do I look like a member of the Third Reich to you, Ms. Tlaib? Is that what I look like to you?
You're the one taking your voting card.
Is that what you think? Is that what you think? Is that what you think?
No, that's unethical.
I think it's radical and I think it's insane. And I'll respect everything that you say. But to say something like that to myself and a lot of my colleagues is way out of line. It's way out of line.
That is an example of the fascistic tendencies that are just exploding on the left. I want to get reaction to that from the man himself, Congressman Byron Donalds. Welcome, sir.
Hey, Rich, how you doing? It's good to be with you.
Likewise, sir. And check this out. It seems like the left is becoming more and more unhinged. I'm glad you kept your cool, but she was literally falling apart at the seams. What's going on?
You're right. They're becoming more and more unhinged by the day. These are the people that were so happy when Joe Biden was president because they were able to pass everything they wanted to do. They had the White House at the time doing every crazy policy that they thought was right. And they're mad that they not only lost last year, but they got boat raced. They got beat down. It was bad, politically speaking, of course. And now you have Donald Trump back in the White House. And he's ending it all. He's like, no, this is crazy stuff. We're going to get back to common sense. We're going to have a smart country that does the right thing and has the right policy. Yeah, we're going to deport a lot of people. They got to go back home. They can't stay in our country. And this is what you get. The Democratic left has gone insane. And then you look at Washington, D.C. Rich, there was 14 days where there was not one murder in the nation's capital.
Amen
that has not happened in who knows when. 14 days? I mean, the basketball team, they call it the Wizards now, but there's a reason why the Washington Bullets were named the Washington Bullets. And so now you have a situation where D.C. is safer thanks to the surge of National Guard troops and other federal officials by the President of the United States. And what does the Democrats do, led by Rashida Tlaib? They want to call us fascists. It's insane. We got to take a stand. We cannot let them continue to do this. It's reckless, especially, obviously, in the aftermath of the assassination of Charlie Kirk. That rhetoric, we now know, directly causes violence to people. It's out of line. It's insane. And I stood up to it.
Well, good for you. I'm glad you did. And I want to get into the D.C. Crimes Act. But before I do, I want to double back to this because you're in this oversight committee hearing, and you're there with your colleague, and this is not a typical occurrence, right? What is the setting like where she just starts screaming in this shrill? I mean, it was really surprising even to me, and I do this every day.
Well, she was becoming emotional and hysterical before I even said a word. And the reason why is because she didn't have a question for anybody that was on the panel, and it was Mayor Bowser and member of the city council. I think it was the D.C. district attorney. She didn't have any questions for them. She just wanted to go on a tirade, and that's what she did. And, you know, you're allowed to use your 5 minutes as a member of Congress to say whatever it is you want to say. But if you're going to call Republicans and the president a fascist, then no. Well, then no. Now I'm going to interrupt you. So, yeah, I did interrupt her when it was her time. But what she was saying was completely out of line, and it was reckless, and it puts people in danger. And so she should be called out on it, and she should be challenged for it.
Yeah, 100%. Folks, we're on with Congressman Byron Donalds from the great state of Florida. Now, Congressman, let's talk about this D.C. Crimes Act because I think it's a great thing. It seems to me, whether it's for political purposes or not, even Mayor Bowser and definitely the people. I mean, they can't escape the news. There's a news headline every other day of some man on the street interview with a woman or a man or a child or somebody saying, wow, it's so nice to be able to go hang out again and to go to a restaurant and to do what we once did in D.C. I saw one where a guy was like, I was about to move because I've been shot 4 times since I moved here and I've only been here for like 8 years. And I thought, man, that's crazy. How do you not leave in the first time you get shot? Just wild
I agree.
Stuff.
Well, I mean, look, to the D.C. Crimes Act, all we did is we said that this District of Columbia was not going to allow adults between the ages of 18 and 25 to be able to be tried and have sentences as juveniles. That's all we said. This is what happens in every other jurisdiction in the United States. You're over the age of 18, you're an adult. You get in trouble as an adult, you get tried as an adult. Not in the District of Columbia. They changed that several years ago. This is actually this is a bill I filed last Congress. We were able to get it out of the Oversight Committee. It passed the House of Representatives. But, of course, Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer wanted no part of it, so it just died. This year, we ran it again, passed it. We had 31 Democrats voted for this bill. So it's a bipartisan bill. We fully expect that Leader Thune's going to put it on the floor in the Senate for it to get an up or down vote in the Senate. And let's see what Senate Democrats think. Do they want the nation's capital to not be safe? Juvenile crime in D.C. is out of control. It's off the charts, especially if you're going to try 18 to 25-year-olds as if they're juveniles. It makes no sense. So all we're trying to do is bring common sense back to D.C., and that's a measure that we pass off the House. We'll see what the Senate does with it. We need to get that to the president's desk so he can sign that into law.
Yeah, I think that's a solid plan. And honestly, it almost sounds like Mission Impossible, bringing common sense to D.C., but you guys are doing the heavy lift. Now, I want to talk a little bit about, last time we spoke, we were talking about a tragedy that occurred in Florida with an illegal alien truck driver that made this illegal U-turn and just, killed a few people in this horrible accident. And talk to us about what's going on since.
Well, since then, obviously that person is going to be tried in our state for whatever the charges that are going to come down. He'll be tried in our state. We fully believe he'll be convicted and he'll face justice. At the federal level, what we did, working with the Ag Commissioner in our state, Wilson Simpson, learning what he and the governor did on way stations and on state roads where they're going to be checking for English proficiency and checking CDL licenses, makes sense. We took that same concept and we filed a bill to do that on the federal level so that at every way station on the highway system, the Department of Transportation will also check for English proficiency, and they will also check for valid CDL licenses while they're checking the weight of a truck and also the contents of a truck. So those are different things that are going to happen as well. It's all about making our roadways safer. What we found since we filed the legislation is that truckers around the country are very supportive of this legislation. So again, this is something where we're working with the Speaker and committees of Congress to be able to have it work through so we can get it to the House floor for a vote, and hopefully we get that to the president's desk as well.
Outstanding. Folks, we're on with Congressman Byron Donalds. And this is the, just to bring everybody up to speed, to remind them, we're talking about the Harjinder Singh crash that was on the Florida Turnpike, killed 3 people. And horrific, right? It really is a horrific situation. Yeah. And people oftentimes make this argument, right, Congressman, that, but there's people here, they're not terrorists, they're not trying to hurt people, they're just trying to make an honest living. I believe Mr. Harjinder Singh was one of those people, but in the same way, he didn't follow the rules, he didn't drive accurately, whatever the case was, he broke every rule in the book, it seems. This person ended up, in effect, being a menace to Floridians. And if this legislation can prevent that from happening, it's exactly what we need to couple, I think, with immigration. So kudos to you on that one. Now, I want to spend some time reflecting on, kind of piggybacking off of your dust up with Rashida Tlaib, her calling you a fascist, and then really looking at the fascistic behavior we're seeing coming from the left. Of course, you mentioned the passing of our friend Charlie Kirk at the bullet of an assassin. Just today, an ICE facility in Texas being shot up. And it seems like there's a fever pitch for violence from the left. Even The Atlantic is reporting it, Congressman. So I want you to stick with me. I want to get your thoughts on that when we come back. Amigos, we're coming right back with Florida Congressman Byron Donalds and me, Rich Valdes. Don't go anywhere.
Big fan. Your impact is really big. Honored to be here.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
Given all these concerns that we've been talking about, the Constitution is 238 years old this month. Are we still headed toward a more perfect union?
I think right now we're on pause. I think that people are uncertain. Some people are actually scared about what's going on in our country. The idea of we the people, that all men and women are created equal, that seems to be in the crosshairs of those on the right who want to turn the clock back on the progress that has been made, writing out huge chunks of our history, slavery, suffrage, anything inconvenient, take it out of museums, take it out of national parks.
That's Hillary Clinton again, continuing this line of attack against people on the right side of history, saying that it's the authoritarian playbook, yada, yada, yada. And again, this is why ICE facilities are being shot up. This is why Charlie Kirk is dead today. This is why President Trump has been in the crosshairs more than once. Our guest is Congressman Byron Donalds. Congressman, we're talking about this false fascist BS that they're hurling our way. Meanwhile, truly, their behavior is fascistic. Your thoughts?
I mean, look, the left they really don't have respect for anybody if you don't go along with their policy. So for them, it's any means necessary. They will dehumanize anyone. They will try to isolate their target, have everybody gang up on that target. That's what they try to do to President Trump. It didn't work. Well, all they care about is political power for their crazy ideas. Their tactics are totalitarian in nature because for them, there can be no disagreement. That's how they operate. There is no disagreement. Everybody has to row the way they're rowing. And if you don't, then they want to call you every name in the book, and not just call you names. I mean, this ain't high school. They want to make it appear as if you're a very threat to our constitutional republic simply because you disagree with their crazy ideas. So that's why what we have to do is really embody what Charlie Kirk was doing. You have to stand firm against the left. You have to have sound arguments for why they are wrong, and you cannot yield to their insanity. It's that simple.
Congressman Byron Donalds, Charlie Kirk was a friend of yours, wasn't he?
Yes. Yeah.
Talk about the importance of his legacy and your personal reaction to what's going on.
I mean, personally, it's still tough to think about that. You know, he's not with us. I will tell you, he's one of the most important people to the conservative movement in the last 40 years. Easily one of the most important people to the conservative movement. What he did, engaging young people all across this country, creating an organization like Turning Point, which is something that Republicans have been trying to get done for a long time, and they can never get done, but they try to. And now the fact that he's not here with us, it makes it really, really tough. It's hard to stomach. And it didn't have to be this way. Charlie Kirk didn't offend people. I mean, the left was offended, but they're always offended if you don't agree with them. But he was respectful in his disagreements with the left and with Democrats and with independents. He always respected people, even though he vehemently disagreed. And he was murdered for it. He was assassinated for it. That's how crazy and perverse the left has come. And so at this time where he's no longer with us, we all have to step up and carry the mantle that he's left for us.
Amen to that. And, you know, Congressman, I hear a lot of people, I talk to people on this program, callers that call in, and they're frustrated, they're hurt, some of them are confused, and they're looking for direction, they're looking for clarity. And I think we got so much direction and clarity. A, I think we get a lot of that from the Bible, but B, I think we got so much of that from Erica Kirk and her actions to forgive this assassin and the posture that she's taken. What's your message to conservatives that are listening to this program, and really all Americans that are frustrated or fearful?
Well, first of all, Erica is living out the love of God. You know, that's what she's living out. It's the love of God that has been extended to all of us if we choose to receive it or not. And it's a love, it's a complete love, an agape love, a love of forgiveness. And she's living that out right now, even as she mourns her husband and the loss of her husband. I think for conservatives in this time where, you know, some people are still very emotional or in despair, I think the way Charlie went about his business, standing firm on his positions, still wanting the best for everybody in that process, being highly respectful of your opponents, even though you think their arguments are crazy and they make no sense. I think that's the path forward. I think America, as a country, we're at a turning point now. Where are we going to go as a nation? And I'll tell you, the only way for our nation to survive another 250 years is we have to be strong and bold in our positions, in our debates, in our arguments. You should not yield on your principles because of the crazy left. But at the same time, there is a respect for the humanity of our rivals that we're going to have to keep at the forefront.
Love the sinner, hate the sin. Really well put. Congressman Byron Donalds, I want to thank you for being here. Godspeed to you, sir. Keep up the good work.
All right. Thanks, Rich. Take it easy.
You bet. Amigos, we continue with your thoughts, your calls, your reactions, and more straight ahead. The phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes. Call now, 833 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdes with an S.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America. You sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdes with an S.
All right, amigos, we're getting to the phones. But first, on a lighter note, I want to share something with you. I'm looking at a piece in the New York Post. And according to a survey on social media, men could greatly benefit from dating women who express discontent with the opposite sex. And it's not as controversial as a lot of people think. Now, you know, the term for this, right? You hear misogynist all the time. Those are men who hate women. But the term for women who hate men is misandrist. And these misandrist women, according to this survey that's attached to a viral video, these women apparently are the most desirable. Now, I don't know who's desiring to be with a woman that hates them, but that's what this thing alleges. Now, this TikTok user, James White, he was stirring the pot with this video where he elaborated on this theory, believing that women who say they dislike men could be the most loyal and loving partners out there. So if you're a guy who can't find a girl, he says, just find a girl who hates all men. But you have to make sure she likes you, and then you're set. You're literally set for life because this woman won't like anybody else, so you're stuck with her. Right? And therefore, she's the most loyal. That's the logic here. He says instead of seeing their expressed distaste for men as a negative, he thinks it's basically a filter. All these girls that hate men are going to find that one man that they actually love, that they can take care of, they can cherish, that they want to be super kind to, super sweet, everything like that is what he says. If a woman who's skeptical of men as a whole chooses to let you in, then supposedly she's serious about you. So I want to know from you guys, do you think that's accurate? For those of you that are married, does your wife like you, right? Or did you marry the girl that couldn't stand you and she ended up being the best partner ever? Curious to know if there's anybody out there who's had that experience like this New York Post piece. Again, the phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4VALDEZ. And I want to hit the phones. Let's go. Where do we go? Let's see. We're going to Germantown, Maryland, calling us on WMAL. Let's check in with John. Go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdes.
Hey, Rich. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think that identity politics is responsible for a lot of the political violence that we see today. But I don't think things have changed too much. I was a victim of political violence, you might say. My father, as a young attorney, reversed miscegenation laws where blacks and whites couldn't marry in Maryland. He didn't have a prejudice bone in his body. He was a Democrat. And anyway, he also wrote the victim impact statement law and also the Policeman's Bill of Rights. But, you know, the identity politics part comes in where, you know, people said the victim impact law was prejudice against blacks. And he, as a young attorney, had a case where a young gentleman had like 8 children and young black man, and he was beaten up by a bunch of white thugs and left on railroad tracks, and he was left a paraplegic. And he tried to bring it up that he was, you know, the victim. He tried to make a statement, you know, victim impact statement, and they said, no, you can't do that. That's, it would prejudice the jury. But he remembered it. And then when he was head of the Maryland, the Senate Judiciary Committee, he changed the law.
Good for him.
But anyway, getting back to the miscegenation laws, he, as a young attorney, he became the Assistant State's Attorney General for Maryland. And
so far, it sounds like a good story. It doesn't sound like things haven't changed. It sounds like they're changing.
Well, he there was a guy who came in, who was Black Panther, came in from Chicago, and his name was H. Rap Brown, and he started a riot in Cambridge, Maryland, burned down a schoolhouse, and shot up the town, and they blew up the courthouse afterwards, and they were going to blow up the other courthouse, but they were using dynamite.
What year did this happen?
It was in the 60s, I think. It was maybe 68.
I think political violence like that was at its height in the 60s. And what's interesting is there's a piece today in the Atlantic, of all things, one of the most left-wing rags out there, where they're admitting, the left is admitting that political violence, or at least left-wing violence from the most radical on the left, is the highest it's been in 2025 since the 1960s. And I think that is wild, because that's why I asked a year. Things like that happened pretty regularly back in the 60s. So did bombing federal buildings, cops getting killed, people getting killed in these bombings by the Weathermen, the Weather Underground, the FALN, the Puerto Rican separatists that became part of that. It was just a wild time. And sadly, maybe we're on the same page here. I feel like we're headed in that direction if we don't, by saying we, I mean the federal government and local governments have to tamp down on this type of crazy from the left. Otherwise, we're going to end up right where we were in the 60s, talking about this type of stuff you're talking about. So I think you bring up an interesting point. I do think things have changed, and I do think things are not the way they were then. But I do think we're on the path to that, and we're on the express path to that. At that, John, thanks for your call, brother. I appreciate the call. Godspeed to you. Germantown, Maryland, WMAL in the building. And we're going to continue with the rest of your thoughts, your calls, your opinions. Let me give you the number. We're going to go to Vermont, and everybody else that's on hold, stick with me. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue with the rest of your phone calls. So we've got Gray calling us from Desert Springs, California. Desert Hot Springs, California. Gray, how are you listening to the show tonight?
On a very popular AM dial.
Oh, which one?
Station. I really don't remember. I had a brain stroke earlier.
Okay,
so,
no problem.
It's very popular. I apologize. Anyways, what I'm afraid of very much so is that if the Democratic Party gets back in power, I mean, what are they going to do to our president, to anybody else that challenges them? Like, I cannot believe the things that have come out of their mouths. Every single one of them, it's unreasonable. It's crazy. And we have, when I say they have to be stopped, I don't mean like crazy.
Like they would mean it, right? Like putting a bullet in
yeah.
somebody. I mean, they're insane. Listen, this is a long time coming, and it's that irresponsible rhetoric coming from them. I don't know if you remember, we've had a montage that I've played a bunch of times, Gray, that it's Madonna saying, I think it's about time we blow up the White House, right? And then you've got, I forget his name, is it Rick Wilson from the Lincoln Project that says, they're eventually going to have to put a bullet in Donald Trump, right? He said that. And he said it like 3 years ago. This is the politics of the left, right? Which I would say is really violence, right? The stoking of violence, the incitement of violence. And this is what happens. You have to, again, something that I read in the Bible. I'll paraphrase it for you. When Charlie Kirk was assassinated, was from the book of Romans. Do not repay evil with evil, but repay evil with good. And that's the only way that we can move forward. Elon Musk said the darkness took Charlie out because he was spreading the light. Just imagine if we don't spread the light and we just spread the darkness, right? An eye for an eye. We'd be the most blind society ever. There'd be no eyes left. Gray, thanks for your call, my brother. I appreciate it. Good observation. Let us continue. I want to go to Scott. Scott's in Wilmington, North Carolina. WILM in the building. Scott, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdes.
Hey, Rich. What you said about women who don't like men, and if you find one, they'll stick with you, the opposite must hold true. Because my ex-wife just loved men, attracted men all the time, and she just had a lot of boyfriends before we got married. Yeah, and then divorced me, and then she had many, many husbands after me. So I'm just saying the opposite must hold true, if what you said is right.
Yeah, I don't know if it's right or not. That's why I appreciate your weighing in on it. And I can't imagine me going for the girl that doesn't like me. Although I can say, I was married, and believe it or not, when I was married for 10 years to a girl I dated for 7 years prior to that. And she initially didn't like me, believe it or not. She thought I was what'd she tell me? I was obnoxious. And eventually I grew on her. I think like a mole or like a bad rash. But either way, I grew on her. And until, she was like, no, this is it. I've had enough. And she jumped ship. But the funny part is I don't think she stayed as part of that club, right? And she was very loyal. Our situation was, very different. Not the type of irreconcilable differences that have a lot to do with stupid things, right? Communication issues and stuff like that, but nothing major like that. But the whole thing is an interesting conundrum, if you will, right? Do you go for the girl that doesn't like anybody, and if she likes you, you're lucky? Or do you go with the girl who's, given, who's even keeled, giving everybody a shot? And is that a good thing, right? Very, very interesting the way you put it. Gives us a lot of food for thought. Scott in Wilmington, North Carolina, WILM. Thank you for your call, my brother. And let me see, where do we go here? The music. All right, well, we've got calls from Illinois, from Vermont, and more. 833-482-5337. Keep it locked right here. We're going to continue with your calls in the next hour. I am Rich Valdes, and I'll be right back.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdes, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdes.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media. Welcome to the Wednesday night edition of the program. Happy Hump Day. We're back for another hour. We're live and national, 7 minutes past the top of the hour, and we're about to get into everything. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDES. If you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation, I'm looking forward to hearing from you. And I want to get into this. Of course, big news on that shooting of the ICE facility, Border Patrol. have been, ICE and Border Patrol have been taking heat since earlier this year. We're going to get into that. But right now I want to talk about James Comey, right? James Comey, the rumor mill all day long. He's getting indicted. Well, we have a little bit of an update on that. And the charge is going to be perjury. And I think the indictment is coming likely tomorrow or the next day. Isn't it great when former FBI directors are going to be indicted, 48 hours or 24 hours ahead of time? And the whole thing, and it takes 5 years for it to actually happen. Just amazing the way this political class, the deep state, gets treated. They get kid gloves. And I want you to listen to this.
Scott, this is reporting from MSNBC, who is reporting just now that multiple sources familiar are telling them that former FBI Director James Comey is expected to be indicted within coming days. They say this is a fluid situation, but that is the current expectation, is that an indictment would come out of the Eastern District of Virginia, potentially on allegations of lying to Congress back in 2020 in testimony up on Capitol Hill. Now, you'll remember, Scott, that the Eastern District of Virginia is where President Trump recently forced out a prosecutor who he argued was not moving fast enough to move ahead with charges against some of the people that President Trump views as his political enemies. You saw over the weekend the president posting on social media urging his Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to proceed with cases against James Comey and others. The president tweeting over the weekend, or posting over the weekend, I should say, Pam, I have reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially same old story, no talk, all talk, no action, nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam Schiff, Letitia? They're all guilty as hell, but nothing is going to be done. So the president urging his Attorney General to move forward with cases against those folks. Now this new reporting from MSNBC suggesting that Comey, anyway, is expected to be indicted in the coming days, but of course cautioning this is a fluid situation and that could change. But that is the...
That's what they're talking about. Listen, I understand that they fired this prosecutor in the Northern District over there in Virginia, or the Eastern District, whichever one it is. I'm happy that we're seeing some action. My hope is that is a jurisdiction where they'll be able to put together a decent jury where these people are not going to be sympathetic to their deep state friends. I realize the challenges that are there. This is not an indictment on Trump or the Trump administration or the Attorney General. Not at all. The system is designed to protect the deep state, right? All the protections are built in. So when we talk about draining the swamp, these drain plugs are like welded on. It's very difficult to pull a drain plug in the swamp, and this is why it makes it so difficult. And you've got to pick and choose your battles, and I get all of it. So kudos to El Trumpito for pushing forward on every front, whether it's world peace, whether it's protecting the dollar, strengthening the dollar, ensuring the future of the American economy, moving forward with cryptocurrency, moving forward with accountability, being a rock for a mourning, grieving widow, making himself available for the Kirk Memorial. I mean, when you really stop and think about all the stuff that President Trump is doing, giving a speech at the UN, he runs circles around so many former presidents, literally, and they all had a plane. So don't say, oh, it's because you got a plane. No, they all had a plane. Trump is, I'm going to use the term, a freak of nature, right, when it comes to how hard he works, how much he works, how well he works. Somebody the other day was asking me something about El Trumpito, and they said, what's he like when you meet him? And I had a brief meeting with him at his club in Bedminster. Sergio Gore had made that introduction. And, we'd spoken on the phone previously. But, in the 2 or 3 minutes we were talking, a few of us that were there, it was fascinating to watch, right? The president's shaking your hand. While he's shaking your hand, he's looking over your shoulder, to your left, to your right, to people that are surrounding him, right? There's that little force shield of, at that day at least, there was this bunch of security people there. And and he's, asking so-and-so, make sure you get me this. I need that. Do we have this? Do we have the whatever? Right. All while he's still shaking your hand. How are you, Rich? Oh, good to see you. How's Mark Levin? Right. Just asking a million different questions. He's on track with everything. It's like if he has ADHD, he's got the best version of it. The one where you could fire on every cylinder, every step of the way without skipping a beat. That's the one I need. And I guess maybe, I get that for the 3 hours I'm on the radio when I do drink my diet soda. I think that's the superpower, that level of caffeine. But either way, absolutely impressive to watch him in action. And I'm glad that he's doing that. I'm glad he's, making sure that his administration is doing what they promised they would do. Promises made, promises kept. This is not what the left say, going after your political enemies. No, you're going after political criminals. And these people have to be held accountable. And I really hope it happens. Listen, I want to believe in America. I want to believe in our system of justice. I want to believe in all those things that I've lost a little faith in. Right? I haven't lost faith in America, but I have lost faith in our system of justice as it pertains to the deep state. Right? The deep state has kind of insulated themselves. The longer you've been an FBI director, and I don't mean one like Kash Patel, right? Kash Patel's FBI director, but guess what? He's not in this game looking to make friends. Just look at how he was in Congress. And this is, again, not a criticism. This is kudos, right? He went in there and he put the American people first. He did what President Trump does. He did the right thing. He asked the right questions. He held them accountable. When they tried to lie to him, he called them out on their BS. He wasn't looking to make friends. He wasn't looking to make favors down the road. So when he's out of office later and, hey, by the way, remember me? It's Kash. He doesn't care. He's doing the job that has to be done now. But the rest of the bureaucrats, James Comey et al., they operate differently, right? This is all the old boys club. This is how they operate. This is about, one hand washes the other, both hands wash the face. It's the essence of politics. It's the essence of Washington, D.C. So anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to get to your calls. We have plenty of calls. Let's see where we have calls. Shorewood, Illinois, Reno, Nevada, McCalla, Alabama. Shout out to WRRK. Montreal, Canada, Front Royal, Virginia, and more. 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdes. And I want to remind you that my friends at WebRoot gave me a free trial of their protection package, and I couldn't be happier. The WebRoot Total Protection Package, it gives you peace of mind. And what I'm talking about is living a better digital life. And what I mean by that is we talked about that news of the major credit reporting agency having a data breach affecting over 4 million users. That's an excellent example of why it's so important to have products like the one I'm talking about, WebRoot Total Protection. Their total protection plan includes antivirus protection against emerging threats like malware, ransomware, and phishing. Also, identity scams are covered under that. You can protect up to 10 identities, and you get VPN protection, cloud backup, and more. So this obviously is a plan that is going to protect you. If you get caught up in a fraud situation, they've got a fraud reimbursement of up to $1 million. If you need to call them, 24/7 U.S.-based customer service. They even have an elder fraud hotline because we know that's really popular. And they do monitoring, dark web monitoring, identity monitoring, etc. So I don't know what you're waiting for, but this is the all-in-one product. You've got plans for individuals like yourself or for your whole family. WebRoot gives me a chance to live a better digital life, and I hope that you'll let WebRoot Total Protection give you and your family peace of mind as well as we navigate these evolving digital threats. So here's what you do. If you want to get 50% off the Total Protection Package, you just use my name, and they will hook you up with the deal. WebRoot Essentials Package, you also get 50% off. Here's what you do. You go to the website. It's webroot.com/rich. I'll spell it out for you. WEBROOT, webroot.com/rich.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
thanks for what you do. You have so many people. You ask the questions that if the viewer had a microphone, they would ask that question, and you seem to always ask it right at the right time. So God bless you, my friend.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
This needs to stop. Violence is wrong. Politically motivated violence is wrong. It was 2 weeks ago today that we saw a political assassination in Utah that tore the heart out of much of this country. This is the third shooting in Texas directed at ICE or CBP. This must stop. To every politician who is using rhetoric demonizing ICE and demonizing CBP, stop. To every politician demanding that ICE agents be doxxed and calling for people to go after their families, stop. This has very real consequences. Look, in America, we disagree. That's fine. That's the democratic process. But your political opponents are not Nazis. We need to learn to work together without demonizing each other, without attacking each other. And I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the brave men and women of law enforcement. I want to say thank you to the brave men and women of ICE and CBP and everyone who puts their lives on the line to keep us safe. The divisive rhetoric tragically has real consequences.
That is Senator Ted Cruz reacting to the shooting at the ICE facility again today, killing 3 individuals. Special agent in charge of the FBI office over there, Joe Rothrock, confirming that earlier today, that 3 people shot some people that were in custody in immigration detention, as well as the shooter himself. No law enforcement was hurt, thank God. But escalating violence coming from the left. And I want to bring in our guest right now to talk about this, because this is no bueno for sure. Art Del Cueto is vice president of the National Border Patrol Council. He's got a lot of experience working with criminals, both working in the jails and working for Border Patrol. Art Del Cueto, welcome back, sir.
Having me, and I got good news and bad news for you. So I'm no longer vice president of the union. I stepped down from that role a couple weeks ago. I took on a spot with the Federation for American Immigration Reform as an advisor. It's just
congratulations.
I'm grateful for my time. No, I'm grateful for my time there. It was fantastic, opened up a lot of new doors, but it was time for me to move on and try to explore other things and just keep spreading the word, right, and just continue to tell people the truth the American public needs to hear. So that's, I made that move. I'm very happy to be on here. I've been swamped all day. I've probably done about 9 television interviews throughout the day talking about the issues because people got to know what's really going on. God bless Ted Cruz. Look, man, I was listening to him and he was saying the violence needs to stop and he needs, and God bless him. But, the problem is I think these people are deranged lunatics.
Yeah.
And individuals continue to fan that flame. We just had heard Governor Newsom out there in California attacking agents, and I take it as an attack when he's saying, we don't want you wearing masks. What are you afraid of? Look, this is the problem. The problem is this is what they want to do. So if they're willing to go to a federal facility, okay, and open fire, I mean, do intelligent people really believe that these animals won't go as far as to dox agents, find out where they live, and attack them in their homes? And that's part of the problem. It's great to say stop the violence, and I want the violence stopped. Absolutely. And I think it's a terrible tragedy, regardless of, whether an agent has gotten shot or one of the detainees got shot. It's a terrible tragedy. Somebody's life was lost. But we need to have real consequences against the people, not just the ones committing the crimes, but the ones that are fanning the flames. They're not innocent either.
This is the slippery slope of free speech versus fighting words, right, or inciting violence. And I'm guessing we're going to have a lawsuit somewhere to really, go back to that fighting words doctrine. That was a lawsuit from years ago where we're going to have to put that into practice, because we're seeing a whole lot of it, Art. There's just people all over the place constantly saying things that they think they could say whatever they want with free speech. And I've been using free speech for a long time, brother. I live on free speech. And I don't call for the death of anyone.
No, and I get that. But look, because I've been seeing it. I've been seeing it in congressmen's homes here in Arizona, where you have protesters that are going to their homes. They're on the sidewalk. They're screaming. I mean, where do you draw the line, right? I mean, it's free speech. But if you're in somebody's sidewalk or you're near someone's home or place of business and you're screaming and you're disrupting it, at that point, there's laws that you are breaking, and those laws need to be enforced, and they can't be scared to do so. We saw what happened with Jimmy Kimmel. You know, he got removed. He comes back. He didn't do an apology. What he did was, if you listen to him talk, but he twisted it around, Rich. He twisted it around, and he made it about himself. That's what he did. He made it about himself, like, I'm the good guy. I'm the one that was persecuted, and that's what a lot of these individuals on the far left like to do. They flip the script, they guilt you, and then we back off and we say, okay, well, you know, we don't want to be that person. It's not about the violence. It's not about attacking them that way, but you need to have consequences against these individuals that are inciting these violence.
You know, Art Del Cueto from FAIR, I want to pick up where you left off with Gavin Newsom, because I think that this is a very interesting point, right? You got the governor of California, one of the largest states in the country, basically calling for, you know, I guess I would argue that this is a veiled threat against ICE and CBP and anybody else that's involved in these enforcement and removal operations, because he's saying you can't protect your identity anymore. He's basically calling for the doxing of them, which is going to lead to harm. So we're going to get your thoughts and reactions to Gavin Newsom's statement from a couple of days ago, and let's make sure the audience has a chance to hear it. And amigos, we're coming right back with Art Del Cueto, former vice president of the National Border Patrol Council. Now he's with FAIR, and we're going to continue our conversation with him straight ahead. Keep it locked right here. I'm Rich Valdes.
Big fan. Your impact is really big. Honored to be here.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
And California is now the first state to ban ICE agents from wearing masks while on duty. Here's Governor Gavin Newsom seemingly taunting those officers.
Unmarked cars, people in masks, people quite literally disappearing, no due process, no rights in a democracy where we have rights. Immigrants have rights, and we have the right to stand up and push back, and that's what we're doing here today. This is a disgrace. This is an outrage, what we have allowed to happen in this country.
You are an outrage. This is Governor Gavin Newsom. He is terrible. He is the disgrace. He is the outrage. He's the one pushing back. He says, what is ICE afraid of? You know what ICE is afraid of? They're afraid of getting shot at. They're afraid of getting doxxed. They're afraid of getting killed. They're afraid of what happened today happening, yet it happened. Art Del Cueto, your thoughts?
It's insane. This is the same man that was pushing masks just a few years ago, and now he doesn't want the masks. But the reason he does not want them is because, like you said, he wants to be able to dox these agents. He wants their identities not to be known. He wants their identities exposed so people can attack them and put them in a bad light. That's the only reason he's doing it. He's on it's political theater. This guy needs to get back into the little car he got out of and untie his floppy shoes because he sounds like a clown. Every time he comes out here, all he does is attack ICE. This is a leader of a state, okay? And he's sitting there attacking law enforcement and creating even more of a magnet for more criminals to enter his state. It makes absolutely no sense.
Listen, Art, I'm with you. I think that this poses a a threat. This is beyond rhetoric. It's beyond free speech. He is using free speech to say what he wants, and his power as governor to create whatever legislation he wants to move. However, I think these actions can have a dangerous and negative repercussion on folks in law enforcement, federal law enforcement. And my hope is that we don't see any continued violence. But as it is right now,
absolutely.
He said this 2 days ago, and here we have violence today.
Right.
So
you know what, though, Rich?
He's in bad shape.
Here's a thought. Agents and law enforcement, they go to work even when they don't feel good. So maybe if a lot of these agents are going to work and they have a cold or the flu or they feel sick, they're going to have to be able to wear those gaiters. That way they don't spread their illness to anyone else, right?
Right. The blue flu, a new version of the blue flu. I love it.
That's right.
Art Del Cueto is with the Federation for American Immigration Reform, FAIR. You can check them out at fairus.org. Art, let everybody know how they can follow you online and keep up to speed with the amazing work that you're doing.
Absolutely. Look, I'm available on Twitter, obviously your X, you should say, at Art Del Cueto. Instagram, I'm always on Instagram. That's the one that I post, I guess, the most on. And on Facebook at Art Del Cueto, simple as that. ART space Del Cueto, DELCUETO. And obviously I'm working with FAIR, but I got a new project in the works that's coming soon through YouTube. So look out for that one.
I will. I can't wait. When you're ready to promote it, you let us know. Happy to have you on to talk about it. You always have something to say that's important because of your expertise. You're a patriot, and we appreciate it, brother.
Thank you, Rich. God bless.
God bless you too, my man. And amigos, that was Art Del Cueto with FAIR. And I want to get to your calls. We've got a lot of people on hold, a lot of people waiting. Let's go to Montreal, Canada, WVMT, pirating the signal out of Vermont. Tony, a Canadian patriot that loves America. Go right ahead, sir.
How you doing, man? I like that intro. Pirating the Radio Free America, Radio Free the world.
Stealing those American airwaves. Somebody call Chairman Carr.
Yeah, he's going to be happy. Listen, I want to follow up on one thing. You know, Charlie Kirk's assassination is not random, Rich. It's the history of violence from the left has been perpetrated through a concept what is called permission, a permission structure to create violence. And the way they do this, that permission structure for violence is the vilification of your opponents. Exactly like you've been saying in the show, exactly like your guest has been saying. You vilify the ICE, you vilify the right, you vilify Charlie Kirk, you vilify the President of the United States. You call them a fascist, you call them bigots, you call them this. So the people that are non-compos mentis, the many people that your guest just said that are not well-minded people, are going to take this up as an honorable way of resolving the issues, because we are obviously dealing with Nazis, as they say, or like in Rwanda, right. They were called, the Tutsis were calling the opponents cockroaches and things like dehumanizing your opponent. So what happens when violence occurs? The left encourages it. It gives excuses for why Charlie was attacked and killed. They make it. They do what's called reverse victimization strategy.
Yeah, justification.
Pork pocket pigmentation politics, and they say it was his fault because he deserved it. So they celebrate the deaths, and this encourages further violence. So when you guys are saying on the radio, we have to come together and we have to stop the violence. No, 20 violent acts in the United States against Scalise, against President Trump, have come from the left. It's the left. Don't say political violence. Say leftist, radical, BLMist, this type of communist socialist agenda for violence. It is violence that is the only response to logical solutions. What has the left provided the United States? Nothing but attacks on person.
And
they don't
violence.
Come up with equal
Sadly,
ideas.
Tony, they don't stop. You're right. They give us violence. They give us heartache. And now we have this escalation of leftist violence that we haven't seen since the 1960s. And that's coming from the Atlantic of all places. Tony, I got to take a pause right here, but thanks for your call and your passion always. Godspeed to you, my brother. And Amigos, we're coming right back. Keep it locked right here. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes. Call now, 833-4-VALDES. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDES. That's Valdes with an S.
You have given us the voice of hope. You give us hope, and we thank you so much for that. You make things seem brighter.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, amigos, back to your calls. Lots of people looking to weigh in on our late night national town hall conversation tonight. Rich Valdes here, keeping you company. 833-4-VALDES. I want to go to line number 3. Lock it in. St. Cloud, Minnesota, KNSI. Kendra, go right ahead quickly.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you how excited I've been. We're experiencing revival in our city. We're having an evangelistic crusade at our church, and I've been canvassing, posting all these flyers. And in the last 4 days, I've been to about 100 different locations, and not a single one of these public locations has told me, no, I can't post my flyer, or that we can't be there. And in our city, we have a very high immigrant Muslim and Somali population. And a lot of these business owners where I'm posting these flyers are even Muslim. And everybody's just open to hearing about Jesus because of this event. I just can't praise God enough. It's been just amazing. The Holy Spirit's been going before me, and I just have goosebumps.
Amen to that, Kendra. Keep up the good work. I love that. And give us an update after it's done. Let me know how it goes and what type of outcome you had, because that really is encouraging, and it's nice to hear. Kendra in St. Cloud, Minnesota, KNSI, thank you, and Godspeed. And let us continue. I want to go with Rick. Rick is in McCalla, Alabama, WRRK. Rick, go right ahead.
Thank you so much. This is my second time getting through. I enjoy your program very much.
Thank you. What's on your mind?
We can't teach Christianity anymore, just playing off of what you talked about. But it's all right to teach, what they call it, Islam.
Yeah, well, there's definitely a lot of competition for Christianity these days. And I think that, we have the home court advantage, right? This country was started by a bunch of Christians that, even if they disagreed because some wanted to be Baptist and some were Anglican and whatever and whatnot, Jesus was the focus for I think all but one signer of our Declaration of Independence. And that's a thing. And we're there. So I think we're at this crux, this crucible, this moment where we say, do we move in that direction? Do we roll backwards? I'm always happy to have competition, to have debate, to have discussion, but ultimately, because I believe we win in the marketplace of ideas. I think people just will do what's right, and I believe in people. Maybe I'm wrong for doing that, Rick, but I do believe in them, and I think that America's best days might likely be ahead of us, and that gives me hope. Rick in McCalla, Alabama, thanks for your call. I appreciate you listening. WRRK in the building. We continue. Where do we go? All the way to the West Coast. Some call it the left coast, but not in this case. This is one of the good guys. Michael calling us from Pendleton, Oregon. KUMA. Go for it, Michael.
Hey, it's great to talk to you. I want to call in more often.
Thank you.
I don't know where to begin. I really agree with that with what we've been hearing tonight from Senator Cruz. I think that was a wonderful statement. I agree with all that. I love my country, Rich. I care about my fellow Americans. I care about you. Regardless of culture, race, I want my fellow Americans, and you too, Rich. You're in my prayers. I'm concerned sometime, you're in the big cities there about, I want you to be safe, all my fellow Americans to be safe and have a good life. And I agree with Senator Cruz. The violence has to stop. And it makes me sick every time I think about, I know we don't all feel the same way about maybe some of the victims, of the recent crimes. But it makes me sick when I think of Charlie Kirk and Irina Bushka. Of course, my girlfriend's in the Ukraine.
Sure.
And they were just starting out their lives, young people with a bright future. And like I said, that's never the answer. And I give one thing. I know you have a lot of callers. I don't want to take too much time.
Yeah, no, listen, Michael, I appreciate your thoughtfulness, and you're right. I think that A, thank you for your kind words, and B, you're right. We do need a moment, and I think we had that moment. It's not lost on me. Charlie Kirk, I will be damned if his death will be in vain. Right? For me, I know what I took away from it, and I know the impact that it had for me. And it is to be more Christ-like. And that's tough, right? And it's tough to even say it on the radio because, to use it, my dad, growing up, my dad used to get mad at me and call me a charlatan. In Spanish, he was called charlatan. And because I'm a wise guy. And it's part of my personality. And I try to, be the best person I could be most of the time. But there's times where I am a charlatan. And I'm working on it, right? I want to be better. I don't want to be the guy that causes someone else to sin. And I know that I do that just by my existence, by my opinion. Sometimes it causes people to do that. But that stuff I can't really control. What I can control is my response being a respectful one, a kind one, while still calling out, what's wrong. And I think that's what we all have to do. We've got to make sure we double down on doing what's right and not being soft about it. Michael in Oregon, shout out to KUMA. Let me see. We keep going. We got a little time. We're doing good. Speed rounding over here. Let me see. Where do we go? We're going to go to Front Royal, Virginia, WMAL. Leo, what's on your mind tonight?
Yes. Finding the right marriage partner is not so easy always. There was an article.
Probably the most important thing you'll do in life.
An article in the Wall Street Journal from May 2012, I think it was, 2011. The Tricky Chemistry of Attraction, the Wall Street Journal, or the ABC News, WLA.
Yeah. Anyway, tell me about it.
And can a birth control undermine or make a woman choose the wrong marriage partner? And then the Wall Street Journal article, Tricky Chemistry of Attraction, but also Scientific American. Can birth control pills affect women's taste in men? And what it is, it's the pheromone detection system. God in nature puts this ability to detect whether you're highly compatible or not so much. And so Romeo would be called out by Juliet. Romeo, Romeo, where art thou? To thine own self be true. Then I will find my way to you. Because, and we're looking for people genetically that are opposite, so we have greater strength genetically, and then that interferes with that. So,
well, that's presuming, right, that people are subconsciously or even consciously making those decisions, to bolster a weakness or to strengthen a strength or however and what have you. I don't know that that's always the case. That would make more sense. It would show some level of thought. I think, sadly, we have a lot of people that are choosing their mate based on whatever, happenstance or just personal preference, maybe looks, and they're not making the right choice. And interesting what you said. I'll have to look for that article and give it a look and see, what my thoughts on it are. But we are in an interesting place, and I remember about a year ago we had Jennifer Stiers on. She's a dating and relationship coach from Texas, and we were talking about this article that was again New York Post. They always put out funny stuff in their relationship section, and what the article was talking about was how liberal women tend to like conservative men. And ultimately, because of the point you were making, that they just felt they were better providers. They felt safer around them. And I guess to put it mildly, they were more manly. than the conservative men were more manly than their liberal counterparts. And I thought that was just an interesting take. So all hope is not lost, Leo. Thanks for the call, brother. Shout out to Front Royal, Virginia, WMAL in the building, coming back, Shorewood, Illinois, WLS, Reno, Nevada, and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes. America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, amigos, welcome back. It's Rich Valdes keeping you company, 833-4-VALDES. And I want to go to Reno, Nevada. John is calling us. He's listening online. John, go right ahead.
Sure. This Joshua Todd shooting at the ICE facility in Dallas this morning.
Oh, yeah, this
the
morning
Joshua
shooting.
Todd shooting at the ICE facility. It's another senseless tragedy that illustrates the kind of people that Charlie Kirk was trying to reach out to. It's another case of a kid a little overweight. He had failed in school. He had failed in the workplace. Hadn't done much for 10 years. These are the guys that Charlie Kirk was trying to reach out to. People that needed friends, needed Jesus. And, those are the kind of people that get in this trouble. Very
right.
sad.
No, I think you're right. There's always someone that needs something from us. And it takes, I guess, for us, you and me and those of us that are listening, to get to a point where we want to rise to the occasion to be that person, right? We want to be the person that will be the Charlie Kirk, will be Christ-like in our demeanor, in our interactions. And my hope is that we all get there and we stay there, right? It's not easy to get there, John, but thank you for your call. Shout out to everybody in Nevada tonight. Robert, Sherwood, Illinois, WLS. You got to make it quick. We're almost done. Go for it.
All right, then I'll go right for it. I consistently hear we have to be Christ-like, and I understand that. I am Catholic. I am a Knight of Columbus. I understand about sacrifice. I've lived a life of that. I didn't serve in the military. I wish I did. But I also understand that his disciples were not Christ-like. They had to fight, and sometimes they had to defend and get physical.
Yeah. Well, the question becomes, were we called to be like the disciples, or were we called to be like Christ? And I guess you decide who you want to be, and which one of those is what we're supposed to do. Robert, Shorewood, Illinois, WLS, thank you for your call. Godspeed to you, my man. I'm Rich Valdes.